Sonic, the heart of your system.
Good day or good evening to you all. So my name's Christina, this is Kit Guru, and we are looking at the Cooler Master MH series headsets today. I'll be comparing the MH630, the MH650 and the MH670 today. Cooler Master have created this line of headsets for all types of gamers, and it is therefore aimed at a wide range of users and budgets. So let's jump over to look what's in the box of these headsets. We'll start with the 630. There's a plastic inlay to keep everything from moving about. I didn't know this, but there's a hidden compartment which I actually needed help finding. It is inlaid into the plastic mold with a tiny lid on the top, and it's a triangular shape, very flat to the rest of the plastic inlay. I didn't realise that you could lift this off, and I actually thought I was missing some of the bits in the box. So if you find that, it is in there, I promise you. Inside this compartment, you will find the rest of the bits that you were missing and the silica to stop it from getting any moisture into it. There is a jack-to-jack cable and a jack splitter, and it comes with a felt bag. The 650 has the same quick manual, again really basic, the 4-step instructions to enable the headset for Windows 7 and Mac, the same plastic inlay and hidden compartment, and of course the felt bag. The 670's packaging is exactly the same, with the same compartment, the same manual, but inside there is a charging cable, a flexible mic, a Type-C to Type-A adapter, and a detachable audio cable. The manual does cover the features and talks you through the cable lock feature and the wireless setup. So let's look at the prices. So the MH630 is $54.99, the MH650 is $74.99, and the MH670 is $99.99. So let's look at some of the specs and features. So we've got a minimalistic design here, lightweight and high density foam in the headband and ear cushion, an omnidirectional boom microphone, 50mm neodymium magnet drivers, and a multi-platform compatibility. So connection types on the 630 is a jack-to-jack and a splitter, making it multi-platform compatible. The 650 is a non-removable USB only. It will work with other USB connections and is mostly multi-platform. The 670 is wireless, USB-C converter is included as well. There is a USB to micro USB for charging only though. Aux to aux with triple band, so you could plug this into your phone, let's say, and use the mic and the headphones that way. Buttons for the 630, mic on and off and volume, so quite basic there. The 650 has the mic on and off, the volume, an RGB button which changes from color cycle, static and breathing, or just turns it off completely, and the 7.1 virtual surround sound button. The 670 has the mic on, mic off, volume up and volume down, a power on and power off button, and the virtual 7.1 on and off button as well. So let's look at the design of these headsets, starting with the 630. So there's no RGB. It's wired only. There is a L and R inside of the cups, satin black plastic with silver detail on the cups. And personally, I like to see how intuitive things are before pulling out the manual, and this headset is a plug and play. However, the one thing I didn't immediately figure out was the cable lock feature. I did notice that there was no click when inserting the jack into the headset, like there was on the other end of the connector. And even though it wasn't intuitive, I do think that this could be a more secure way of inserting the cord. On the flip side, it could lead to breakages and or accidents. So there is no quick release for this one. You put the cable in and you turn it so that it doesn't come out even if you pull it really hard. The fabric cable does seem to easily twist. It seems to create spirals, that if that kind of makes sense, so it kind of turns round itself. This was a little irritating, and I couldn't help but wonder if it could lead to kinks, but over time it did unwind itself, but you know, it could cause problems later on. The 650 does have RGB on each cup. It is wired, and the L and R are actually grey on this one, unlike the blue in the 630. There is a power indicator as well, unlike on the 630. There's silver detail on the cups is still the same, but the cable feels stiffer and it acts slightly differently. It came out of the box kinked, but it didn't seem to twist. The kinks did soften after use, and I found that they did drop out. Overall, a very similar design and aesthetic. The satin black plastic all over features throughout the whole range. And moving on to the 670, there is no RGB. This is the most expensive headset and there's no RGB. That could be a plus or a negative. The L&R are grey like in the 650, and the status indicator light that is red when charging and green when fully charged. The battery for the 670 is 25 hours according to the specifications. I found that I used it for about a week and I didn't really need to charge it, so it really does depend on how many hours per day you're using it. The cable for the aux lead feels like the 630, whilst the USB charging cable feels like the 650 lead. So although twisting occurred on the 630, the 650 cable seemed to kink more, it's a little stiffer. The cups and headband cushion is very different on this one, and it is a pleather material. Overall, the look and design again is very similar, with that all over satin black design. Build quality wise, now this is quite interesting. Over all of these headsets, the head strap is really bendable and really twisty, so you can kind of do this with it. So, I mean, it might be useful for kind of fitting it to your head and moving it around, but it could potentially wear over time with that kind of amount of movement. There is also a machine sharp edge on the back of the head strap, and to be honest, this is probably me being overcritical, but it's definitely something you won't notice when wearing it. On the 630 specifically, there is a lot of plastic here, so it does give off an entry-level feel, but for the price, this is really something that you can't complain about in my opinion. The aluminium adjustment runners seem really strong and look like they could really take a lot of usage. Most of the time you'll probably keep this in the same place though, so once it's initially adjusted, it probably won't make much difference. The mute mic button feels really fluid. It is really easy to tell if it's on or off due to the fact that it insets when it is turned off, which is really useful because when this is on your head and you can't see the buttons that are next to your ear, it's really helpful to know whether your friends are going to hear you or not. The volume scroll wheel is really tactile. There's a good amount of tension and feedback here. It really does stop you accidentally deafening yourself when turning it up, and I found though, strangely, that these headsets did come out of the box in full volume, so do watch out for that when you pop them on for the first time. The 650 and the 670, they're exactly the same build quality as the 630 with that same bendy head strap, the aluminium extenders, that same machined sharp edge on the headband, and there is really not anything else to report here, but coming from the same line, this is kind of to be expected. Obviously the pleather is an exception here and slightly different, but the build quality is really of the same level. So how comfortable are these headsets? That's something that we all want to know. So the 630, both sides are adjustable as mentioned earlier to help you find the best fit. I found that it was actually quite tight even for me. I have what I think to be a small or medium sized head, I think. I didn't get a headache or anything, don't get me wrong, this is just my observation. This might loosen with long-term use, but I did find it a slight bit tight on my head. The closed fabric cups are really comfortable, and I almost forgot they were actually on my ears. I didn't feel like my ears were being pinched in or anything like that. They're really cool temperature too. I didn't feel any sweating or overheating. The 90-degree rotating cuffs are great for positioning or wearing around your neck, for instance. Or if you're a streamer like myself and I've got my partner next to me, I like to take one off, so that's actually really comfortable as well. I found on the top of my head there was pressure after even just a few minutes of use. After an hour, it didn't seem to get worse, but it was noticeable. Let's move on to the 650. So it may be just me getting used to the 630, but I don't seem to feel the same kind of pressure on my head with the 650 as I did with the 630. It is quite tight, but again might loosen with use. The closed fabric cups are again cool and comfortable, and they also rotate at 90 degrees. I found that the top of my head felt this pressure after longer periods of use rather than immediately like the 630, but it was still there, so that's something to consider. So I was hoping for a real you know, premium feel, comfort when it comes to the 670 because of that huge price jump. They've kept with that same running theme, the adjustable headband on both sides, the closed cups, but this time in pleather. The cups do feel a little more comfortable than the previous two models, but this headset doesn't feel as tight either. The pleather headband cushion actually felt a lot firmer out of the box, and I was concerned that this would create greater pressure on the top of my head, but to be honest, it did release a bit of that pressure, and that was really unexpected. So there was some improvements definitely on the 670. When we talk about the microphone on the 630, the 650 and the 670, it is a removable keyed 6.5mm jack mic. It is flexible, you can't change how long it is, and it is an omnidirectional boom mic. I did do some sound tests, so these tests were conducted without messing with any settings in the software, just plug and play, and we'll look at the software a little bit later. So here you can see me actually testing this mic and you can hear what it sounds like. Hi guys, this is my mic test. Here I am talking normally. Here I am talking a little bit louder. Here's me talking softly, and here's me whispering. I'm sat in a relatively quiet room here with PCs and fans on, so let's listen to the background noise. And here is me typing. So there we go. What did you think about that? I thought that the microphone was a good enough quality, and the fact that it runs through to the higher end models, am I satisfied with that? I would say I would like to see a little bit of a difference in the higher end model, but it does its job. It will be perfectly fine for gaming. Let's talk about sound tests while we're talking about mics and things. So these tests that I conducted were without messing with any settings or software. I just plugged and played and listened to music and played some games. On the 630, I found at times when listening to music, I was pretty much maxing out the volume on my headset, on my computer, and on Spotify. So disclaimer, I do like my music really loud though, so this might just be me. There seems to be a bit of an emphasis on the low end frequencies without sounding unbalanced, which means they're really quite bassy, which I loved. When listening to pop, R&B and even rock, it was really clear and easy to hear all the layers in the song. The box does state hi-fi sound, and this may be the reason why it sounds good playing all types of media. Saying all that though, this is most definitely a gaming headset. When I was playing Call of Duty, I noticed all the little sounds such as footsteps, rustling of clothes, all of that was really clear. Balance of the headset is obviously set up for those frequencies, and it makes a huge difference with the orientation and the immersion. I also really enjoyed the panning. It almost seemed a little bit more aggressive than the other headsets. Especially when playing shooters, it really helps hear where you're getting shot from, for example. Just to address the high frequencies, they're really easy to hear and not too sharp. It doesn't sound tinny at all. Also, there was good sound isolation. I could hear the outside and what was going on around me, but it wasn't putting me off at all. And on the higher volumes, I was completely immersed, so it didn't bother me anyway. On the 650 now, so listening to music with these is quite different. I can immediately tell that the volume is louder, high end and mid frequencies are way more prominent, and the low is a little bit subdued. I couldn't have the volume settings on my PC and Spotify on max as well as my headset, it was far too loud. Rock music sounded a little bit empty, and R&B and bassier tracks kind of left me wanting a bit more bass. I didn't notice a difference when pressing the 7.1 button at this point. Again, this is without using software, etc. And when listening to music or playing games, there really wasn't that much of a difference that I could tell. Cooler Master have seemed to go for a more even, realistic mix in the audio balance here for this one, but there is the same sort of sound isolation with the same sort of cups. When gaming, the headset gave a much more realistic barrage of sounds. The shots and explosions were frightening, however I didn't seem to get as much detailing that I did when I was wearing the 630. I'd definitely say that this is one for you if you like a more flat and equally balanced, more realistic sound. 670 now, so first of all, I would have expected these cups to be a little more isolated due to the faux leather, pleather cups, whatever you want to call it, and the price increase. However, I didn't notice a difference between the three models, and if I'm completely honest, I was a little bit disappointed by that. I tried the 670 connected with the USB-C dongle converter to my phone. There was no fuss, no need to pair or anything. It was really, really intuitive. Same as when I plugged the dongle into my PC. I didn't have to do a single thing. It was just instant connection, which was great. On all types of connection, I would say they share the same sound profile as the 650s, sort of flat, but a small bit of boost in the bass, I would say, in comparison. I did find I had the volume at max on this headset, and the phone and the PC. The 650s, however, do somehow seem louder. That could be down to the highs and the mids being slightly stronger. Again, when listening to the music and pressing the 7.1 virtual surround sound button, it didn't really make a difference. Again, this is without software, so we'll look at this again later. The sound for gaming is really clear, and I found I could hear every detail. It is like the 650, I would say, but it's got the 630 sort of highlights. You can hear the top end and the bottom end, whereas the 650 seemed to be clean and all frequencies were more leveled and realistic. There is no auto turn off when there's no sound being played. This could be good or bad, but when they are off or unsynced or unconnected to whatever, they do turn off after a short time. But if you're sat there and you've forgotten your headsets on and there's no music playing, it will continue to stay on, so you're just draining battery for nothing really. So now, what we've all been waiting for, the software. So this is where the headsets had a shining moment for me. The software and what you can change is a real game changer. Now here you can see the software on the MH670. You get 2 tabs, you can change the sound profile here, and here you can change the 7.1 surround sound. As mentioned before, I really couldn't hear a difference at all when I plugged them in and pressed the button, but after messing around with all these settings, it was so prominent, the difference between 7.1 off and 7.1 on. Not only that, but you can calibrate where you want the points in the 7.1 surround sound to be. I found this really useful, and I wanted to play around with it for a little while. Not really what it's designed for, but it was really interesting to really hear that virtual 360 that you've got going on there. Here we are looking at the software when plugging in the 650. You can see the 2 tabs we described earlier, and I found that this headset seemed to be really striking in the mids and high area, but when messing with the equalizer, also the bass slider really made such a huge difference. It really gave a punch to the music, which I kind of felt was lacking before when you just plug and play. We also have a lighting section on this one, so that allows you to change the type of color profile. There's a color wheel for you to mess around with, and you can simply turn the RGB on or off and change those profiles. All in all, really easy, intuitive software, and a must to really get the most out of these headsets. Obviously, the native sound profile when you plug and play with these 2 headsets, and when you adjust the 2, you can hear how the settings affect each one differently because of this. You may be thinking, where's the 630 in all of this software? Well, there kind of isn't any place for it. It's an analog headset and there is no supported software for it. So we're going to go over the pros for all of the devices. So starting with the 630, the audio balance of this device is bright and great for hearing small little details, but offers satisfying lows when listening to music. The sound isolation is above what I expected for the price, and it's a really good quality headset. Cable lock feature is also a great idea. Again, we can debate whether that's a positive or a negative. Moving on to the 650, RGB, yay, I love RGB. I'm a bit of a magpie and I love it. Again, sound isolation is above what I expected for the mid-range price, and the balanced sound profile that came natively is more realistic, and it is really loud. The 670 is wireless and really convenient, comfortable, didn't make me heat up or sweat. There's lots of options when it comes to connection. It's a balanced, realistic sound, and overall I was really impressed with the device. The thing that is really a huge pro to me here is the software. This makes the 650 and the 670 really customizable, and you can really optimize them for so many different situations. I found it really made a difference, especially to that 7.1 virtual surround sound. Looking at the cons, 630. And this kind of goes across the board anyway with all of them. The build quality is really average. The head strap is really pliable and really flexible, which could lead to degeneration over time. The lead for the 630 isn't as long as I am used to, so that could be considered a con if you've got, quite a big setup to link it up to. The comfort is compromised over time as well with that pressure on the top of your head. Cons for the 650, you could say that flat sound profile is a con, but again, due to the software, this is all changeable. It does cost more. There is a non-removable cable and nearly exactly the same design as the 630. Cons for the 670, the price is obviously higher than the other two, and to be honest, did you really get more for your money? I'll let you decide that one. With the Pleather, you either love it or you hate it. I found that it didn't really make much of a difference to the comfort. I would have liked to have seen a bit more isolation with the sound as well, but you kind of didn't. They don't turn off when there's no input being played through the device, but they do turn off obviously when you leave them unplugged or unconnected. This could run the battery down though. Overall, if I was going to buy one of these, I'd probably either purchase the MH630, but if I could afford it, I'd definitely go for the MH670. The 630 really gives a lot of value for money, but there is no beat in the no fuss wirelessness and the Pleather, which was really nice. The 670 really does come across as the premium version here. So guys, let us know which one you would go for. Let us know if you agree with what I've said today, and make sure you subscribe, ring that notification bell, check our website for daily tech news. Also, check out our merchandise. My name's Christina, this is Kit Guru, and we'll see you next time.